Welcome anyone that's watching or listening. It's Ben here from the Agile Avengers. We've got a guest on today. We're sat with Jac Hughes, who is an experienced Agile Coach, Scrum Master. He's always sharing nuggets of wisdom and knowledge on LinkedIn. We thought we'd like to get people onto our vlog and our podcast that are doing good things in the community, and we can have a chat about all things Agile and lockdown related. So welcome, Jac.
Hi, Ben.
Let's kick off. Jac, why don't you tell us a bit about your story? How did you get into Scrum? How did you get into Agile? How did you get into the business world? Maybe tell us about how you moved from the armed forces into Agile. What's your story?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having me on. I've been watching the whole Agile Avengers movement, so congratulations on that. Yeah, it's fantastic. So typical of someone who joined the forces, really, not that good in school. Decided that the Navy was the best place for me, so joined at 17. Left after just shy of 7 years. You know, brilliant experience, brilliant time, but it was just the right time for me to leave. Sort of fell into traditional project management because I didn't know any better. Worked through like a consultancy for 2 years who placed me in a large bank in Bristol. So sort of cut my teeth there. Sort of spotted straight away there was a lot of waste. I think just being in the forces, you sort of get into that mindset of not wasting time, and you sort of strip out bits of the process automatically. That wasn't through knowing what I was doing. It was just through osmosis, I suppose. Did a few little projects, and I suppose like most people thought there was a better way of doing it. So I sort of stumbled across Scrum first, like most people. And then it sort of snowballed from there, really. Started researching more, obviously did a course. My time with them was coming to an end, and I just went all in on wanting to be a Scrum Master. And then, you know, it grows, and then you learn about, you know, Kanban, the SDM, you know, the tech, DevOps. Like you sort of become a T-shaped individual, because that's what Scrum Master should be, in my opinion, as well. Yeah, have that deep understanding of one thing, but don't be close-minded to everything else that you need to. Don't pigeonhole yourself into just being a Scrum Master. Just been going from there, really. Worked for a few companies, and then thought I want control of my own development, my own sort of life, and then started Everyday Agile, which I was just a normal contractor, but I didn't want to just do that because I wanted to have a legitimate business. And just been growing it from there, really. And yeah, here we are today.
Awesome. What was your first role as a Scrum Master like? I know I was chatting to the guys in the Agile Avengers team this morning, and they were really interested to know what that transition was like from being armed forces and then going Scrum Master. What was that first role like?
So like I said, it was traditional project management. It was junior project management to want of a better phrase. So I went from the Navy into a junior, like, work package manager sort of role, you know, so very Prince 2, very stage gatey. So so that side was not that difficult, but the whole corporate world thing was more difficult than the actual job. Mm-hmm. Because I had to, you know, understand some new language. I had to rein in my own sort of behavior, and you know, you can't say certain things in the office that you can on a warship, and that's just a fact. There's no right or wrong in that. It's just a completely different environment. So no, it wasn't so much the job that was difficult. It was the whole being in an office, you know, people getting in a mood because they had, you know, full fat milk when they asked for red top milk. And to me, that was just like, you know, why are people worrying about that? So yeah, to answer your question properly, it wasn't the job that was difficult. It was the whole transfer into the corporate world was more difficult. But like I said, I soon found that there was a lot of waste, and I I managed to have quite a big impact in my little area, because
Mm.
that's, that was my sphere of influence, if you like. And then, found Scrum, and then it went from there, really. But yeah, the transition was difficult, but no more difficult than anyone else. No more difficult than probably someone leaving university or changing jobs in general.
Yeah.
Plenty of people do it. Some people struggle more than others, and they need support. But on the whole, it was all right.
Did you find that there were any kind of skills or behaviours or attitudes that had been installed in you in the armed forces that translated well into the corporate world?
So just the perspective of no one's going to get hurt in this office environment. So let's just all calm down. The thing that was really the thing that was hardest was I was used to short, sharp, on the spot feedback. So this is what we've done. You did this. Explain why I did that. We didn't do this so well, and then it was sort of we wash our hands of it, and then we just get on to the next thing. So, and then in the office environment, like, feedback is, and still is to an extent, a bit of a mystery. And sometimes we only do it once a year, and people are not sure how to give it. They feel a bit awkward. They do the old sandwich method, and I just wasn't used to that. I would rather get everyone in the room, or that individual, so they could give me feedback, so I could give them feedback. I didn't even think it was feedback at the time. It was just, I don't know, like just a debrief or a post-action sort of thing, and then we wash our hands and we just crack on with the next thing. So that was difficult. I just think the batching small tasks was something we did in the forces, so we could get little bits done at a time, pushing towards that bigger goal or that bigger vision. So that was something that was easily transferable. But at the time, I didn't even know this. I didn't even know what a product vision was, or what a BHAG was, or I didn't have any concept of that corporate world. This was just stuff that we did anyway, and I had to try and package that up and bottle it up to use the good bits in the new environment.
Did it get you into any trouble in the early days? Because I can imagine, just from knowing people, friends who've been in the military, and like you said, it's a matter often of life and death. So you have to be precise, you've got to be quick, you've got to be blunt. Whereas in the office, like you said, it's not. So people do tend to do feedback differently. How did that work out in the early days?
I think the biggest thing, and up until relatively recently, so there's two areas that I had to sort of improve on. One was that attitude of, well, no one's going to die, which is true, but that doesn't mean, and this is the first lesson, that doesn't mean it's not important to them, right? Just because I've got different experience or think certain things doesn't mean those people who I'm working with have worked really hard to get to where they are. And for them, they think differently about things. And that leads into, sometimes that could be seen as, I could be seen as being quite dismissive of things. And that wasn't the case, really. I just wanted to focus on what was in our sort of, what we could influence, and not worry too much about other stuff that was not even close to us yet. So that, in my mind, I knew I wasn't being dismissive, but I can now see, from other people's point of view, that could have come across as that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So that,
did you find? Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say that was the biggest sort of thing I had to adjust, and I still have to do it. I have to think before I speak a lot more.
Did you find there were certain people that you could click with because they got that level of communication, and there were others that you had to alter your approach to?
Yeah, definitely. There was one individual who I worked with, and he sort of took me under his wing a bit, and he I don't even think they would have the role there now, but it was he was like a planner. So we looked at all the supply and demand, and again, it was very, this person is 0.8 of an FTE on that project, but he's doing 0.2 of an FTE on that, and his job was to show leadership, all these graphs, and he'd make slides and slides and slides, and I was supposed to take over him in time, as well as do some project management work. And I I had to adjust my sort of approach in terms of I take all his knowledge on board because he's been doing it for years. I'll suggest stuff, but for now, you know, I don't want to shoot him down because I know for a fact that no one's reading this stuff. But yeah, I had to be a bit more gentle in my approach to things, and I didn't really know much about coaching back then either. You know, if I was to do it again, I would have done it differently. But as soon as I got the role full time, I just stripped a load of stuff out and gave that the 20% that people were actually reading and taking value from. So then I could start playing around with Scrum and, you know, other things as opposed to, you know, writing documents and no one was reading. But yeah, my general approach to people like that had to change.
Did you have a clear transition from project manager to Scrum Master, or was it more of a gradual move across?
It was so the deal with this company that I worked for was you did 2 years on a client site and then hopefully they offer you a permanent position. I probably could have got a permanent position, but I knew I wanted to be a Scrum Master. And it's only recently this place has, you know, started their agile journey in brackets. But so I just really went niche. Like I said, I started sharing content on LinkedIn at the back end of 2016. Just started looking for specific Scrum Master roles. And I knew that if someone gave me a chance, because on paper, right, like I'd been doing this project management stuff, so I had to sort of bring that to life in a different way and experiment and put that across and say, you know, I've been using the agile values and principles in the best way I can, but I'm fully aware that, you know, someone needs to take a chance. And luckily a company did. I think I got it. My CV was enough to get me through the door, and then, you know, the interview went well, or the 2 interviews went well. And then from then on, I just sort of went, you know, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what my passion was. I never really had a passion for anything like this before. I was starting to learn how I learn as an individual. So I didn't really do that well in school. I started listening to podcasts, reading books that I was actually interested in. You know, as you know, LinkedIn is a massive source of information. And then just started, really honing down on the whole agile thing, but keeping in mind the stuff that I had learned from being a project manager, because it's nice to look back on that experience. And when you're speaking to project managers, then it makes things a bit easier because you know where they're coming from as well.
Awesome. There seems to be something about agile which does draw people in, and it really gets people excited. What is it for you that has really enticed you into agile? What is it that gripped you and gave you that passion?
I think it's because I've been doing a lot of it in the forces without putting a label on it. So we met every day. Everyone said what they were doing. We had, like I said before, we had an overarching goal. And to me, I'm quite a simple guy. And I think agile just makes sense. You know, we want to come to work and have people be intrinsically motivated. It's a good idea to look at our ideas with the customer before we waste loads of time and money, maybe get it a bit less wrong. So to me, it just encompasses everything I sort of believe in and think and know to be true if used in the right way. I don't know that there's negatives to it if people overcomplicate it, I think. But the best way for me to think about it is sometimes everyone is so busy trying to think outside the box, they forget what's in the box in the first place. And if you stick to those 4 values and 12 principles, I don't care what you call it really, if work is flowing in a better way for the people actually producing the work, then you're onto something. So sometimes I think we need to stay in the box first before we try and move outside of it.
Yeah, that's cool. So, I mean, fast forward to today, and you've been agile coaching for quite a while. How did you kind of move across from Scrum Mastering to setting up your own business and running your own organization as an agile coach?
Yeah, so I think Scrum Masters and Agile coaches are the same thing. I should probably make that clear. But that debate's for another video, or probably face to face. So I'm still very much a Scrum Master. Like if companies want me to go in and do that, like I'll more than happily do that, because that's where I started. That's what I like doing. I like being with small teams. And then it just started from, really, like I said, wanting control of my own development. Managed to get a contract quite, luckily, really, because there was a group of us who all knew each other, and we all started at different times, but we all, it's not what you know, it's who you know sometimes, rightly or wrongly. And then I just sort of thought, well, if this contract finishes, what am I going to do? So I don't just want to be a contractor bouncing from place to place. I want to have, I want to be able to offer, I want to be able to work with other places. And luckily, because I've been quite consistent on LinkedIn and just being truthful and sharing my version of it, like, it's not going to appeal to everyone, no more than, the Agile Avengers stuff might not appeal to anyone, and that's fine. But the people who it does apply to, they start to message you. And then I just started doing small engagements, and then obviously at the moment it's a bit different, but just started branching out, really, and then just trying to grow it, hopefully bringing a few more associates who have my values and beliefs to do some of the stuff that I want to be oversubscribed. I don't know if you've read that book by Dan Priestley. Have more. Yeah, it's a really good book. So it's about being oversubscribed as a company. So then
What's the title of that book? I've read one of his books.
Oversubscribed.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to grow it, really. I don't want to be there. I'm quite happy being a company of one, or two, or but a smaller company. But I'm not out to be the biggest player, but I want to be the most trustworthy and authentic, I suppose. That's the goal.
And what does life look like? So for anyone listening, we're currently in the middle of this pandemic known as COVID-19, where we're all on lockdown and we're all pretty much tied to our homes. So what does lockdown look like for you at the moment, Jac?
So do you know what? I've seen a lot of, LinkedIn motivational quotes and, people's routines. As of today, which is Wednesday, it's probably taken me 8 weeks to find something that works for me. And again, if people can sort of hang on to that and relate to that, I think that's fine, because this stuff takes time. I am not, by personality, by the way I think, built. Is that the right word? Yeah, I'm not really built for working from home. My mind doesn't really work like that. I like to be out and about. So the truth is, it has taken me about 2 months to sort of settle in to something that works for me. Luckily, I had prior engagements that have just now moved to remote work. The contractor market is on its backside, so there's not much I can do about that. It's just keeping going. Yeah. So luckily, I built up enough work before this that can then be transferred remotely, and it's just about not putting too much pressure on yourself. Things are going to go wrong. It took us 10 minutes to log on to this, which is fine. But if you get wound up about that every time it happens, you're going to be more stressed out than being in the office. Not every day is going to be great. When it's windy and it's rainy, not so much today, but the temperature has dropped. It can be a bit. You can get a bit of cabin fever, but it's just accepting that not every day is going to be great, and that's fine. Some days you're going to want to put Netflix on and eat a packet of biscuits. Again, that's fine. If it gets to 2, 3, 4 days, then maybe you need to have a word.
Need
but
some help, yeah.
Yeah, but like that I think it's just not being self-aware enough to know when you need a day off, to let your feeling brain take over and give your thinking brain a rest. So for me, what does it look like? Not getting up about 8:30, taking the dog for a walk, talking to my wife about the day ahead, because again, communication is key, right? If I was to come home and not tell her what my day looked like, and then other people in the house's expectations need to be set, and then it's just finding a routine that works for you, and then try and do just like everyone else, trying to keep moving, trying to get the steps in, drinking plenty of water, just keeping it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Making sure there's enough food in the house. But in terms of an actual, what does it look like? Not much different to what it was like before. I'm quite good at self-isolating anyway, so it doesn't make a difference.
It's
How are you
interesting.
finding it?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, it's interesting that you mentioned keeping the simple stuff going. My lower back is an absolute bit just from being sat in a subpar office chair at home, not getting a walk in the morning when I'd normally walk to the station, walk to the office, not just getting up and walking around the office, chatting to people, standing up, sitting down, walking home, like all that kind of stuff that in terms of your physiology gets you moving.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that. So I'm just noticing I'm hugely just stiff and achy around my back and my hips. And I think that combined as well with not being able to get to the gym and do your usual, sport and exercise. And it's that simplicity of, am I getting 10,000 steps a day, or am I getting out for a walk? Am I getting fresh air? Am I drinking enough water? That stuff is key. And that's actually from the teams that we're working with at Vodafone at the moment, that kind of stuff, that social interaction, how's your day? How are you feeling? What did you watch on TV last night? All that simple stuff is what everyone needs to make an effort to keep going.
And that's what going back to the point before, like so many people trying to think outside the box, so then they're not getting the simple stuff right consistently. And that's what, well, in my mind, that's what high performance is, really, doing the same stuff consistently over a period of time. I did buy a kettlebell, so that was probably the best purchase. That's kept me going. And a skipping rope. But yeah, just don't overcomplicate it. If you're having a bad day, like, it's all right to feel like that. Just let everyone else know.
Yeah. I mean, continuing on that theme, interested to know what has been one of your biggest challenges or lowest points whilst being an Agile practitioner?
Fairly recently. How much can I go in? So, because I believe in all of this stuff, it can sometimes come across as a bit too direct. And I know that. I'm not stupid. I know what I sound like. I'm quite self-aware. But when you've got people who take it outside of the job and make it personal, and they make it personality driven, that can be quite difficult, because you end up trying to, and I won't get involved in politics, because in sort of company politics, because I don't need to. I'm not a permanent member of staff. But if I'm engaged to try and influence change, then sometimes you can't, in my opinion, you can't coach if all you do is listen. If people don't have the knowledge there in the first place, you can't coach it out of them all of the time, because then where are they getting that knowledge from? Where are they getting those answers from? So sometimes when especially when there's a group of coaches, having a group of coaches can be a nightmare. And then you just, in my experience, sometimes you can end up being that guy who ends up speaking on behalf of everyone else. So when everyone's thinking the same thing because they tell you outside of the community of practice, or whatever you call it, I took that on my shoulders, but it didn't end up looking good on me. And that caused a few. Yeah, it's probably been the lowest point, because then you end up being that guy of the group through no intent of trying to be negative. You just think you're highlighting what everyone else is thinking, but you can't. They're all grown ups. I shouldn't have been speaking for them, because it did me no favors, and it just made things awkward. That's probably the lowest point, being that bloke of the coaching group.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the flip side, what would you say has been your most proud, successful highlight moment?
I think for me, it's seeing ideas that you may have mentioned to Scrum Masters, leaders, teams, 2-3 months ago, just in conversation, and someone's gone away and gone, do you know what? You mentioned that during this period. I've gone away and thought about it, and we're now going to run some sort of experiment. And also seeing coaching, proper coaching of Scrum Masters and mentoring Scrum Masters, seeing them sort of come into their own. I get great satisfaction in that, because I'm only there on the sidelines, and I leave them to it, and I'm there if they need me. To see them thriving in an environment they thought was quite challenging at the start, just to have some sort of part to play in that. Yeah, that's satisfying.
That's cool. Any hugely embarrassing moments? Any massive cock ups or?
Oh, plenty. I'm sure. Oh, I suppose, yeah. When I ran my first ever public training in Newbury, I went to Tesco and got the buffet stuff for both days, and they provided me with a fridge at the venue. So I had like 12 people there, and they travelled, and it was like a pilot course, so it was at a discounted rate, which doesn't really matter, but it was like they'd still travelled. And then overnight so it was over a weekend, all the food had frozen in the fridge. So I had 12 people come in for the second day. I was running it on my own. My wife came the first day, which was really helpful, but the second day I was on my own. So I said, right, you give me 10 minutes, we've done this part, we'll have lunch, and then we'll do whatever else. So I was there preparing the food, and all this stuff was just frozen. I wanted the ground to eat me up when that happened. That was about a year ago, actually. Well, luckily they were all ex-forces, so they were, they gave me some grief, but they were, they were all right with it. They still ate it.
So you do quite a bit of stuff with ex-forces and resettlement. I see quite a bit on your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
What's all that about? Tell the guys about what you're doing there.
So resettlement just is the word for people who leave the armed forces and go back into civistry or civilian life. There's a lot of organisations who do a lot of work. I'm not going to claim that I know it all. I just started sharing my journey, some tips, some things that work for me. Again, they're not going to work for everyone. Not everyone's going to like them, but I'm not going to give tips that I haven't done. I do it. I just put little snippets out. There's nothing to do with the brand or the business really. It's just something I do. If something pops into my mind, I'll type it in my notes. If I think it's a good idea to post, I'll post it. There's no strategy to it. It's just trying to help out where I can. Because there's so many people who try and help ex-forces people, which is great, but there's so much choice that sometimes people don't get the actual story from someone who's been through it. So it's just trying to share meat and potatoes, common sense advice, really. And if people like it, they like it. If they don't, then there's plenty of other places they can get information from.
Yeah, that's great. We'll do one more question, and it might be a tough one, but what would you suggest, or what would your advice, your words of wisdom be for other contract Scrum Masters, Agile coaches in isolation at the moment? What would you advise them to be doing, to be reading, to be brushing up on or practicing?
Oh, so yeah, for me, I've been trying to learn Swift a bit. And I think, I'm not saying you should go and learn the whole thing or start building your own apps, but I think now is a big opportunity for non-technical Scrum Masters, coaches, whatever, whatever term, whatever you want to call yourself, even project managers, whatever. Now is a massive opportunity to go and see what it's like from the other, on the other side of the fence.
What's Swift?
When I say other side, the iOS language.
Okay.
So building iOS apps. So I think, you can download, you can learn Java on a application on your phone. I think it's called Grasshopper. I'm not learn Java, but you can get the basics of it. And I think now is a brilliant opportunity to not learn a whole programming language, but get a taste for it. So then, I think I put a stupid video out the other day. It's a Scrum Master's favorite question, right? How many lines of code have you written? And it's like, well, no, I'm not technical, but I do understand where you're coming from. And this is a little project I've been doing. It sort of gives you a bit more of it may be able to build more rapport with maybe developers, programmers who don't see the value in the role.
It helps
just to see what they're going through, and you can actually have a conversation with them, and you can get on their level a bit more. Apart from that, again, you have, from a practical trying to find a job point of view, you have to show people what's on the menu, whether we like it or not. Posting stuff on LinkedIn gets attention. And the market doesn't really care if we like doing it or not. That's just the way of the world, and that's not going to change anytime soon. So just start sharing the good and the bad, or even just articles that you've read, or posts that you've seen and your take on them, because that, rightly or wrongly, is going to get people interested in the services you may be able to provide them. Have you guys found it in terms of that, like the whole Agile Avengers stuff? What's it been like?
Do you know what? It's an interesting question, because a couple of our guys have recently moved away from Vodafone. So we all kind of met within that company, started building our site and creating content. A couple of guys have moved away, moved to other jobs. One of our team members she's moved back home, which is over in Hungary. So we were kind of at a point where we were thinking, how are we going to all work from different places, even different countries? And then lockdown happened, which forced us all to work remotely. And it's actually been really, really good in a lot of ways, because when we've all dialed in for stuff, we've really thought about how do we make the most of this time, not just in terms of getting value, but actually making sure that we're not just sat here for hours, just staring at a screen. How do we really develop like engaging ways of meeting with each other and getting stuff done? And then we've been able to take that back into our teams at Vodafone and wherever else. So it's actually been a really powerful time, and I think it's given us a lot of time to reflect, like both personally, individually, and then as a team. I find just in the day-to-day life, normally you're so busy running around trying to get everything done on your schedule, you don't really get a chance to think. Whereas at the moment, there's a lot of time just to sit around or go for walks and ponder everything going on in life. And so we've had some really kind of good moments of clarity about various bits, and had some really good kind of discussions. I think we're all reading. We've kind of encouraged each other to be reading stuff, reading some good books, sharing videos, interviews, podcasts, all sorts of stuff. I think we're really encouraging each other to go big on personal development in every form,
Yeah.
not just, you know, becoming a bit more educated about something agile, or, you know, becoming a bit better at whatever our skill set is. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for us, that's definitely been one of the big things. What I was going to ask you, actually, you're obviously quite good at sharing content on LinkedIn really regularly, and have got a really cool style. What would your advice be, or what would your kind of tips and your thoughts be for other contractors or coaches who want to step into that world, but are maybe a bit nervous or maybe unsure? Because as you know, and as we found out, there's quite a big fear element almost of, if I put out this content, is it going to get any attention? Are people going to love it? Are they going to hate it? It can be quite tough.
I think for me, again, just me, I only talk about 2 things on LinkedIn. You scroll through all of them. There might be the odd one thing where I'm having a bad day, but I only talk about leaving the armed forces, or I talk about, I won't, I've obviously got opinions of numerous other things going on in the world, but I think I'm not opening myself up to posting some things that I can't justify. So I would say don't post about things that you're not bulletproof on, or at least, I'm not saying, you know, where you're totally right and no one can disagree with you, but you need to be able to back up what you're saying and not guess. So I'm not going to talk about being a safe consultant, because I haven't done it. I haven't got enough information about all that world to really have a proper opinion on. So I'm not going to post about it. I'm going to learn about it, but you know, it's not really my niche. So yeah, don't guess about the things you're posting about, and just I think it just takes, you just have to write stuff. Not all of it's going to be gold, and that's okay. But over time, if you put out, you know, a perceived rubbish post, someone's going to flick through it, and they're going to be on to the next one in milliseconds. So if you put out a crap post one day, you know, the next days might be a bit better. And just don't engage with, you know, on there, and especially in our community, you know, when people are fishing for you to trip yourself up.
Yeah.
And just don't get dragged into that. Just say thanks for sharing, you know, and just move on, because they've got the choice to put that or not. So yeah, just start posting content, really. I know that's easier said than done, but everyone's got something they can talk about. But like I said, don't guess either. Don't start talking about, I don't know, something that you've never done, because people will just catch you out.
Yeah, that's good advice.
That might sound a bit manipulative, but it's not. It's just, like I said, I only post about 2 things, so I'm not opening myself up to you know, not being wrong is not the right word, but not being able to justify what I'm writing, because I'm only writing my truth.
It makes sense. It's having a level of focus, which means you are focusing and you're paying attention to the stuff that you really want to pay attention to, and not spreading yourself too thinly across a range of topics and conversations.
Yeah, and again, when someone replies something negative, or, you know, not negative, but negative, because I don't mind debate, I'm all up for debate, but when someone gets a bit nasty, that's not coming out of my pocket. Like, that looks bad on them. Like, the people who are connected with me and them, they're going to see that. It's not going to reflect badly on me. So if they post something like that, then, you know, that's on them. That's nothing to do with me. They chose to take the time out of their day to comment on something, not just my stuff, but you see it on LinkedIn all the time. They've chosen to take the time out of their day to write something negative. That's not my fault. You know, they need to sort out their own life, not, you know, use their time in a positive manner, maybe. But yeah, just start writing and don't guess, in summary.
That's great advice. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Jack. It was really, really great to chat. We will put links to social media. We'll put links to Jack's stuff below in the description on YouTube. You can find Jack on LinkedIn, Jac Hughes, Everyday Agile, and we'll post links below. Drop us some comments, drop us your thoughts, anything that resonates with you, or any questions that you've got for us or for Jack, just pop them in the comments and we'll do our best to get back to you guys. But if you're listening, I hope this was really valuable, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers, Jack. Thanks again.
Cheers, Ben. Thank you.